So we officially have brand new information about another proposal that has now officially been introduced recently. So hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another update. So the big story, as you can basically tell from the title, is that there was recently another brand new proposal that has now officially been introduced in order to try to do $500 stimulus checks. Now, there are some very unique perks of this particular proposal. It does apply to 50 states. In fact, one of the very special things about this proposal is that it's actually going to be applying to a very wide demographic. So it's one of the most inclusive stimulus check programs, if of course it's able to go through, which I think is really great news because it means that almost everyone that's watching this is pretty much more or less qualified for this. So in today's update, we're pretty much going to talk all about this new proposal, its details, who qualifies, all of the specific stuff important to know, and then maybe also to end this with a little bit of a personal insight and also a little bit of a background story to how this proposal, because it is actually very interesting, promised by the very end of this video. So we're gonna get started, but as always, real fast, before we begin, really quick 10 seconds, consider smashing the like button because at least we're starting to see progress, and again, I think there's a lot of good stuff here. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos, especially as we get more potential proposals, and also so we can give updates about the proposals that we've already talked about. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about honestly anything. So that being said, let's get this video started. So we're going to talk all about the details, and then we're going to go into the very specific details and personal insight to it. So hopefully, even if you've already seen a video that talks about this proposal, there is still something unique to get out of this, maybe, you know, a value, hopefully, by the end. But essentially, this brand new proposal was recently introduced by U.S. Representative Josh Harder. He is a representative in California, and it's pretty much called the Putting Gas Money Back in Your Pocket Act. Now, you don't necessarily have to own a car, even though I know the name talks about gas, but most of these programs have related to something related to gas, more or less, in the last, couple of weeks. But the big idea is that the Putting Gas Money Back in Your Pocket Act is pretty much a bill or proposal that was just introduced, hoping to try to send $500 stimulus checks within 30 days if it ends up being approved. Now, what's very particularly special about this specific proposal is that compared to a lot of the other ones in the past, this one actually has an income cap, of $0, or simply put is that there is no income cap. Because the big idea is that in order to try to simplify the program, Josh Harder wants to essentially create something where he can basically try to just send out these stimulus checks to almost every single person in order to try to simplify the process. Pretty much, if you are someone that is a taxpayer, you would be able to qualify for this. And the big idea really is that it's pretty much going to be $500 per person. So if you happen to be a joint or married couple, you would receive $1,000. And then in terms of dependents, it's pretty much going to apply to every single person that's 16 years old or above. So if you happen to have a child, admittedly, they actually will not be receiving a stimulus check unless they are 16 years old or older. And I think the specific reason why they really had that as an age requirement is really because that's the specific age that many people are legally qualified to potentially be able to drive in this country. So that's really where the 16 years old kind of story comes from. Now, you don't necessarily have to be a driver per se, so that's the really great news. The only reason why it has the word gas inside this proposal is really just because they want to use this to help control the gas prices, and they're trying to let this stimulus check or give this stimulus check with the intention that people will use it for gas. So that's really the big idea to what this really is. Now, in terms of the greater significance, and I think this is the part that's important to note about, maybe answering the question, what is the probability this is even going to go through? Why is this existing? Why are there so many different proposals with like 100, 300, 400, now 500, 1,000, just on and on stimulus checks? So this proposal is actually also a little bit interesting because there's a little bit of a backdrop story to how this came to be. It was introduced by U.S. Representative Josh Harder of California, and one of the reasons why this is actually particularly significant is because Josh Harder, he's actually up for re-election very, very soon, and specifically we're talking about something this year. So it is believed by many people that there might be a particular political incentive to trying to create this proposal. Now, one thing that is actually very, very positive is that a little background story to Josh Harder is that he actually is someone that, even though he is from obviously a very, very strong left state, California, what's really interesting is he's actually a little bit more of a moderate, right in the middle, in the sense that there have actually been a lot of more right policies that he's actually sometimes relatively supported. Of course, a lot of left policies that he also supports. So the big idea right now is that in order to try to up his chances, many people are speculating, and again, this is just really from observation, and I mean it's from talks and word of mouth, and I'm sure there's articles that probably talk about it. But the big idea really is that it is believed by a lot of people that one of the reasons that he's really presenting this proposal is hopefully maybe he has good intentions to help people. But the other one is actually really for his political campaign. It's because by creating this proposal, it can maybe gain some level of popularity. So maybe he has he basically can maybe share his image outside. It will maybe, improve it. And so in a way, improve his odds and probability of trying to get reelected during this year's election. This is especially true because since he is from a relatively left state, what this really means is that by creating social programs, he's able to create something that most people within his own state really believe in and support, which is basically about trying to preach for stimulus checks, social programs, money that is meant to be put inside of our pockets. Now, one thing that is actually admittedly really particularly true too is that there is actually a little bit of an argument for the other side, and it's really about the fact that even before he was actually up for re-election, he actually was already, he had already actually supported many different social programs. So it's actually really believed that this isn't like, and we're not going to use any names, but sometimes you might have a politician that will talk about one thing. Maybe if you do want to comment a name, feel free to comment below. But you will sometimes have politicians that maybe will talk about something and then maybe a year later talk about the total opposite in order to try to please a whole totally different crowd. One thing about this particular proposal is that it actually has been noted that Josh Harder, for the last several years, has actually already tried to support many of these social programs. The biggest difference is that now he's just making an even greater support. He's trying to basically push for greater support in order to really get this through. But the good news is that at least when it comes to just his political background story, it's been pretty consistent. So at least there's not any kind of moving change or anything like that. Now, in terms of the probability of really being able to have this proposal go through, so one of the more interesting parts is that admittedly, when it comes to just Congress in general, he is not as powerful of a figure compared to a lot of the other politicians, and certainly not as vocal per se compared to a lot of politicians like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, even Mitt Romney, AOC. I mean, there's a reason why many people might even be hearing about him for the very first time in this video. Maybe comment down below if that happens to be the case. So he doesn't really have as much power per se compared to a lot of people in order to try to get this proposal to really go through, even though he's making an attempt and effort at it, which is the really great news. However, there's actually still a lot of significance to this, is because at the end of the day, I think the big idea, aside from the fact that he's making an effort to do it, is really the fact that by simply having another proposal now onto the table, he can try to maybe use this to support just fourth stimulus check programs in general. So maybe it doesn't have to be this, but what it does mean is that he at least supports some kind of social program. So maybe they can put this on the side of all of the other proposals that we've already talked about. You know, probably we'll put videos at the end, but most people already saw it, but you know, really just in case, he's going to potentially now have this on the side, so maybe it will garner even more support to try to do this. And I think at the end of the day, the really great news is that it means that we at least have options. So whether we want to do some kind of, again, we talked about it, you know, in another video, whether we want to just do direct checks, we want to put a requirement on it, we want to rather just do it like basically put money in people's pockets through like a tax rebate, a tax cut of some kind. They're all pretty much programs that the common denominator and big umbrella is something related to gases. Not necessarily that you have to drive, but with the intention to control the actual prices of gases inside. And again, everything's related because we use gas to move supplies. So, you know, all of the goods, our groceries, our supplies, our, I don't know, just products that you see on store shelves, everything, it relates to driving. It relates to gas prices because that is one of the biggest expenses and one of the most necessary to get people moving around. But really beyond this is that that's pretty much what I really just wanted to share in today's update. So hopefully you guys found something of value, whether it's all of the details about this bill or just a personal insight or the background story to all of this. So if you guys really made it to the end, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did, maybe comment down below. Consider smashing the like button if you guys haven't done so already. Subscribing, hitting the bell, especially as we get more details. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about anything. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well. If you are watching this on release date, have a great rest of the month and a great start to